Yes, we're live. Yes, we're live. We're live. We're live. We're live. We're live. Hey, guys! It's Old Man G here. I'm joined today by Shawnee and Kieran, both from obviously United Man and Red Devil Weekly, and we're here to bring you another 100% Manchester United podcast where we discuss all things Manchester United. Guys, give them a shout out.
What's going on, Matt?
How you doing, lads? How you doing? Good to be back.
Loving the United Foundation.
Yeah, that's what we should call like the United Foundation. But like, if this podcast gets big, rename the WhatsApp group the United Foundation, man. Something like that, man. It'd be good. It'd be good.
I love that.
But yeah, we hopefully got a really good show for you guys today. We're going to discuss a lot of key topics, obviously, of United over the last week and upcoming week. And the first thing that we're really going to get into it is basically the United versus Watford match. You know, United obviously played Watford yesterday, comfortable win 3-0. You know, although you could argue it was a bit iffy in the first 30 minutes. You know, Maguire and Lindelof getting in each other's way. I'm still perplexed. Very perplexed that
I know you're going to say bye. You're going to say bye.
I am going to say bye. I am. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but I just don't think the Lindelof-Maguire partnership is. I feel like bye with Lindelof or bye with Maguire, but not Lindelof and
Maguire. It doesn't work.
Does that make sense? It just doesn't because they just don't. I don't see the chemistries there, but more importantly, like none of them have pace. So I know that all this like above the board type of sort of thing, you know that. I mean, you remember the Chelsea game, the amount of last ditch tackles that Bailly made because he ran to intercept. You know, you're not going to get that with Lindelof and Maguire, at least as consistently as Bailly. So, but anyway, Bailly fanboy aside, what did you guys think of that result against the Watford?
Go on, Kieran.
Oh, well, cheers. Well, obviously, you know, the result is all that matters, really, in this sort of state of the season. I think the first half, especially the first 30 minutes, was very chaotic. You know, our midfield was very sloppy. We're giving the ball away. And Watford, they probably should have, you know, if they capitalised on that, they probably could have gone in at half-time, you know, maybe one or even 2 goals to the good. Obviously, we got the penalty after that. From good work from some good work from Bruno Fernandes, but ultimately, that first 30 minutes was poor. And after that, I kind of thought that if the game was going to progress like that, I knew we were dropping points. But obviously, to get that penalty and to go in 1-0 at half time was massive for us, really. And then even after half time, I kind of felt that we did need to get that second goal, and Martial provided it. 3 goals and 3 for him. And to be honest, I was one of those people that started to doubt Martial's ability. I thought that he wasn't being consistent enough to be Manchester United's number 9, but recently he's on a bit of a hot streak, and it was an important goal to get that second goal and a really, really nice finish as well. And then obviously Greenwood getting his goal was always fantastic to see. But yeah, really, result was all that matters in the end. Obviously, we move up into 5th place for now, at least, which as of right now is a Champions League spot. But obviously, a lot of people aren't really sure whether it's going to get or whether Man City's ban are going to get upheld or not. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But ultimately, it was very, very positive second half. I think after that second goal went in, I think the game was over. Realistically, Watford started to drop off, and as gaps kind of, you know, started to appear, we started to, you know, break very effectively, and we could have got a few more if our finishing was better. Agallo nearly scored his goal as well. That would have been the icing on the cake. But, you know, 3-0, clean sheet as well, which we haven't seen too many of this season. So, you know, can't complain.
Shane, what do you think?
Yeah. Ultimately, echoing what Kieran said in regards to when we started off the game, it was very touch and go. As we said before, we went live. You were mentioning, obviously, what happened with Maguire and Lindelof. Sorry, Maguire and Matich even run into each other. And it was just one of those you're thinking, no, he's going to get it. No, he's going to get it. And I just thought, you know, is this going to be a sign of things to come for the rest of today? And luckily, well, Luke Shaw, I say luckily, he read it well, came across and sort of covered really well. So after that,
I was going to say,
on,
just a comment on Luke Shaw. I think Luke Shaw's improved quite a bit recently. Like, I
think that's a direct link to Brandon Williams playing really well. He knows he's either going to he's got to win his place basically as Man United's starting left back, and the competition for that left back spot is, well, I don't think there's been competition like that for that spot in such a long time. So I think that's elevated Luke Shaw. Seeing how Brandon Williams has played, obviously the rave reviews about him, it's kind of flight or flight for Luke Shaw, and it's good to see that he's fighting for his place, really. I feel like that we was kind of, we didn't get our foot on the ball as much as I would have liked to against some lesser team. I know in terms of personnel, where I'm specifically speaking of central midfield again. Fred has been, he's come to the fore, which, I'm happy he has. Matich has been, done well since, he's come back from his injury. But still, for me, there's a golfing class between us and other teams, and it shows more so with the fact that Bruno Fernandes is on our team now, which you can see the difference with Bruno Fernandes compared to Fred and Matich, and it really, really shows a difference. And when you look at other European teams like PSG with Verratti, Real Madrid with Modric or Kroos, Juventus with Pjanic, and you can just see the difference in quality. And I feel like looking at Bruno Fernandes in that lineup now, up against our own central midfielders, it really does show. I think we've touched on it before, where when we signed Pogba back from Juventus, that golfing class that you can just see he's so much better than everything that we've already got. So that was encouraging, and I really, 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 obviously, like Kieran said before, up until the penalty, is sort of like. It wasn't really a sure thing. So the fact that the penalty came late on in the first half, we got that with his herky jerky jumpy penalty. Whatever. I don't know what to call it, but he scored it anyway. And I've seen him do that in the highlights for Sporting as well. But like again, to echo Kieran, where he said that once we got the second goal, Watford a little bit more deflated. We took control and we was kind of flying then. And I just feel like how we were once we got to 2-0, that's how we need to be when I know it's hard to start games like that, but when we're going up against certain oppositions, we do need to start with all the impetus and us forcing the game. Why we wait for something to happen or not happen, I'd just like to see us sort of engage more on, from the beginning of the games, especially against sides like Watford. But again, good performance in the end. Greenwood, I've got to single him out just purely because he seems like he can be one of those players that's on the peripherals, and then all of a sudden, boom, magic.
Yeah,
and his finishing is just, I don't know what to really say. I mean, I don't, and I've really tried not to, I don't want to say jump on the bandwagon, but sort of big him up too much and say he's going to be this, he's going to be that. But I kind of, it's hard to kind of deny the kid's quality. And what is it, since 1985, he scored the most goals of any, he's the youngest player to score that many goals since 1985. So, the stats on rare occasions, do they ever lie? And he's 18, he's churning up, big numbers already. So let's see how he goes. But overall, decent performance.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with pretty much most of what both of you guys are saying. I think that it's a combination of both, isn't it, when it comes to pause the scene? Because I think some of it does come to, how we are actually set up tactically by Solskjaer in terms of how we're playing. Because, you can clearly see the difference when we played. I think was it Wolves? I think when Bruno Fernandes was a holding midfielder. How we're playing Bruno Fernandes now, you can clearly see a difference in how Bruno Fernandes is playing and how it's operating. And so, but the thing is that one of the things that has always bugged me about Ollie is the fact that we always play with two holding midfielders, like Fred and Matich. In an ideal world, if Pogba comes back and plays for United again, I would actually play Fred, Pogba and Bruno Fernandes in that midfield. So Fred can be the one that's holding, or alternate with Fred and Matich, whatever. And then
4-3-3.
As a 4-3-3, yes, with just
Yeah.
one holding midfielder, either Fred or Matich, alternate between the two, and give Pogba being your box to box, so maybe Bruno being that sort of number 10 role. Suddenly when you look at that midfield, like, okay, that midfield can suddenly cause that midfield is certainly a top 4 midfield, at least. Especially seeing, how Chelsea
Dangerous.
is a dangerous midfield, exactly. But Ollie
100%.
seems to be obsessive with sort of making sure that there's 2 holding midfielders, which doesn't make sense. It tells me that he doesn't trust his centre backs, which is strange considering that we spent 80 million on Harry Maguire.
Absolutely.
And that's compounded by the fact that, like, certainly against Brugge last week, and we'll talk about Brugge later, when he played 3 centre backs again away from home. And it didn't really do anything because we still conceded goals, So, and in fact, it was so much so that I think at one point when we had Brugge, there were so many people back, like 5 or 6 people, and yet Club Brugge still were able to get 1 or 2 shots off. You're like, there's no point in playing 3 central centre backs if you're still going to concede chances. And so for me, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going forward, he should be looking at this Watford game going, drop the holding midfielders. Let's actually go on the front foot to attack teams. I get Rashford was out. I get that we don't necessarily have tons of options, but I still think we should go and put teams on the front foot, like we should do against City, rather than just waiting for us to go down or to be under pressure or to counter attack, etc. If you know what I mean.
Do you know what? More to your point there, though, G. I think the fact that you again, we've touched on it before, but the fact that we're playing the 2 holding midfielders, and again to your point, where if you look at from where we've gone from playing, Matich, Pereira, Fred, or Matich, Pereira, McTominay, and it being quite a weak central midfield, to the possibility, again, as you said, if Pogba plays again, where we can play Matich, Pogba, Bruno, or Fred, suddenly becomes very athletic, very technically gifted, and like you said, playing the three defenders at the back, you it's kind of pointless, because ultimately I felt for the longest while that we're conceding chances and opportunities to other teams because our central midfield, 1, aren't able to hold on to the ball, 2, aren't creating opportunities, so we're not able to kill other teams off. So it's a pointless exercise trying to pack the central midfield to try and protect your defense if you're not going to do anything at the other end. You win games by scoring goals, simple as that. So just to echo your sentiment there, G.
Yeah. No, that's spot on the money, to be honest, because and again, some of these things we'll talk about later with, like, Solskjaer stay tactically and stuff like that. Like, these are kind of things where I'm really happy. I am happy that we obviously won the game, that we got the 3 points, and that we'll hopefully have a good charge to go on to get top 4. And I'm fairly confident that if Solskjaer gets top 4, he's not going to be sacked. Let's be real. That's not going to happen. However, am I convinced that tactically Solskjaer is the right manager to bring to take Manchester United forward? I'm not 100%. I'm really not 100% sure at this moment in time. Like, I'm still yet to be convinced that the coaching style and his tactics will be able to,
even simple things like Igalo not being given more of an opportunity. Starting against Club Brugge would have been, all that kind of thing. Just giving him 10 minutes. Someone like Igalo, he's going to need match.
Fitness,
playing time, match fitness. Otherwise, he's just gonna be stuck in a rut. His timing, his cadence is gonna be off. So, very simple things like that. We like to think that there are people around Ollie telling him those things, but I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, I mean, it's the question: is it Ollie or is it this coaching staff? Like, sometimes it's not clear who's actually in charge. Whether it's him, whether it's Phelan, whether it's McKenna or Carrick, so like he'll be asking them to sort of. So it sounds like it's more of a coaching team then necessarily Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the one like in charge, if that makes any sense. But doing all the decisions, even though he is by definition, the coach of Manchester United. But we'll see what happens. And I don't want to be negative. I really want to be positive with the whole thing. And I certainly, when we won the game, I saw the result, I was like, yes. The worst possible thing that could have happened was for us to drop points to Watford at home. And for Chelsea to be 6. Now we're only 6 points behind Chelsea. 3 points even behind
3
Chelsea.
points, 3 now, yeah.
We're 5th place, and as Kieran said, potentially 5th place might end up being enough. Obviously, we don't know because it's not 100% confirmed that that Man City, they're appealing to the court of arbitrary court of sport or something like that. So it's still possible that it might be, dealt with, or the ban might not happen, etc. At best, I would suspect that they'll probably make it so that City will have a reduced ban. So maybe it'll be like 1 year as opposed to like 2 years, because that's usually what happens. At worst, they'll be able to bribe their way through and throw money at it, and they'll get the whole decision reversed. Which
they certainly have a lot of that.
Come on, this exactly. Is UEFA.
Yeah,
that's a very strong possibility.
Yeah, these guys. Let's be real. Let's be real. Wolves owe them. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. So, but yeah, final thoughts before we move on. Do you think that this is this result was the turning point for Manchester United, Kieran?
Well, I would like to think so. Obviously, if this was to bring about more kind of just a bit more consistency in our league form, then I think we've got a really good shot at top 4, and I would like to think it does. Obviously, that first half an hour is still something that we need to rectify, and that still kind of leaves question marks. Obviously, as Shane pointed out, if we started games as if we'd got that first, when we got that second goal, if we start games with the same sort of energy that we had after that second goal, I think we'd be a lot better off. And there's a reason why Manchester United are have a really good record when scoring first. It's because almost before we get that first goal, we don't get out of second gear. As soon as we get that first goal, we then start to have confidence and things like that. Yeah. And it's something that I've never really understood. Maybe it's because we haven't been great for a while. We haven't won a title for a while, so maybe just the confidence overall isn't there. But it's just it's a weird thing, and I think obviously if is this game a turning point? As I said, I'd like to think so. Obviously with Bruno Fernandes in the team, he both league games he's played, he's come man of the match. He'll be a massive player for us, and hopefully he can stay fit towards the end of the season, because the last thing we need is any sort of injury to him, maybe back to square one. But I think consistency is really the key, and if we can keep up that sort of consistency and play like we did in the second half from the very start of games, and not just that, but keep it up throughout the whole of the 90 minutes, especially in games against Man City and Spurs that are coming up, which are going to be massive for us. And even games like away to Everton, they're very, very tricky. And obviously, our last game of the season is away to Leicester, so a difficult run-in really towards the end of the season, especially when you're chasing the 4th spot. So if we are going to get Champions League, I think really this game has to be part of a turning point, really.
And what do you think, Shane? Oh, sorry. Before let's just shout out to Rasmus in the comments. Do you think we can win the Europa League? As I say, we'll come to Europa League in a second. And by the way, how is the recovery of Shane's hand going? So go over to you, Shane. Over to you. I'm going to put that comment. There you go.
Injury report.
Rasmus.
Injury update.
So, which one do I answer first? Which one do you want me to go through first? I think if I let's go to the injury first, because this is me trying to be I'm not youthful anymore, so. The injury is very good. Thank you very much. Well, no, I can't even say that. I can't even use that excuse. I was on pitch, didn't sort my feet out. It's a nightmare story. It's a nightmare. I can't even use that excuse. I was in goal, done a flying diving save. I can't say that. No, I just didn't sort my feet out, and I just landed awkwardly, and that was it. So no, fine, brilliant. what is it, middle of March. I'll have the cast off, and then that'll be hunky dory. I'm hoping. I've got a question actually, because obviously you've been in the medical field.
Yeah.
G. So
disclaimer.
What happens when? How long does it take for a bone to set? Or what? Sorry, what heals quicker, a ligament or a bone?
Bone.
Bone. Oh,
well,
okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I think that it's because it's different because obviously bone healing is about six weeks usually, to get to back to source. But I think the thing with ligaments is that a lot of the time the reason why ligament injuries take longer is not so much because of they're not repairing well. It's just that the fact that because you're not using it, the actual how can I put it? The strength, the durability, all this different stuff like that isn't there. So it's almost like
you got to restart.
Yeah, exactly. That's why. So a fracture will heal, in between 4 to 6 weeks. But the thing is, because you're not using your limb in that period of time, that's why it takes obviously players a lot longer to recover. Because the bone is healed, but they now need to sort of regain that sort of power in the ligaments to keep on sort of going. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's so go from that then. So what happens with Rashford then? So Rashford's obviously got this back. Is it a fracture or something? What is it?
I should be Manchester United's physio, medical doctor.
I think so. Put him straight, G.
Yeah, I might post medical updates like on my channel, Manchester United medicine explain how this fracture works. Maybe that's a video I do.
That's a unique selling point. That is, man. Go for that. Go for it, mate. Go for it. Yeah, exactly.
So Marcus Rashford's injury is actually quite interesting because he basically has a stress fracture, and stress fractures are actually the worst, in my opinion, anyway, the worst type of fracture because if you have a clear cut, there are many ways that you fracture a bone. It can be simple fracture, can be completely displaced. That's been the bones not in line, whatever. But the thing with stress fracture, but the human body is a great thing, it'll heal, etc. So that's fine. The problem with stress fractures is that stress fractures are there because of repetitive use. So the most common site for stress fractures are actually in the foot, and you find in runners because they're constantly running. They're constantly putting their feet on the ground, and it's sore. And what can potentially happen is if they're not dealt with, treated quickly, you can end up getting really bad arthritis in that joint. So it's not good. And the problem is that the only way to really, unlike a normal, in quote, normal fracture where just immobilize, heal, and then you can sort of almost get yourself back, with a stress fracture, you literally the only way is rest, literally.
Right.
It's not a question of healing. It's you just have to rest, whatever area that it is.
So how does he build up muscle or within that same area then?
So, well, from what I gather, Marcus Rashford's injury is in his spine. So that's not ideal because
mobility, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it's weird because I know a lot of people are. When I saw the injury, a lot of people are talking about it. They're like, "A diversion, but it's fine. It's fine because it's good to get out of the belt." The
Loving the expertise.
Yeah, man.
The thing is, a lot of people were thinking, it's not really a big. My concern because you've got to bear in mind, Marcus Rashford is let me put this as a banner. Give me 2 seconds. Marcus.
Yeah, no worries. No. I just find it very interesting in terms of because I was hearing that he already had he's been notified that there's an injury before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was, I don't know, that there was a single fracture or something like that, and it ended up as a double fracture. I've no idea, but that's what I was hearing. It sounds
from what it sounds like he probably had the stress fracture before. But it maybe wasn't that bad. And you know how footballers are; they take painkillers, etc. He had a bit of a rest. You know, it was a kind of like, you know, and he himself probably was like, I can play on with it, I can get on with it, etc. And then basically when he, in that game, obviously when he fell on his back, on combined with the fact that obviously he was still playing with it, it just exacerbated things, which is why he needs to be out. I mean, put it this way, in terms of like why stress fractures are so serious. Remember, like Andre Gomez from Everton, and the injury that he got at that was only, I think, in, was it November? Was it?
Was it?
Was it October or November or something like that time?
Maybe, yeah.
October, November at the time. Like it's now like I'm sure. So like, and that was he like had a double fracture and ligament injury. That was, if you saw the pictures, it was a horrendous injury. You know, hence the thing, like he would be back before Rashford. You know what I mean? Despite how horrendous that injury was, he'll be back, and he is back. So he's playing now. He's playing Everton now. Before Marcus Rashford, because of the nature of stress fractures.
Wow.
So why wouldn't they have then? Because what doesn't make sense to me is why wouldn't they have then, knowing that there's a stress fracture and the area of the awkwardness of it and the possible severity of it, why would they not have just sat him out anyway from before it got obviously really bad?
Well, that is the 100% question, and you could argue, you know, that comes up to Ollie and the coaching staff, because how many players have been overplayed this season?
But that's what I mean. And do you know what's funny? We was even saying it. We was even saying that Rushford's been overplayed. He's going to need an extended break of sorts, because obviously not forgetting he's been played in the World Cup and the championships as well in the summer, so he wasn't getting a break. So
that's why for me, I don't want to see Rashford go to the Euros. And I would like to move England, but for me, the best thing that Rashford can do is not go to the Euros, rest and recuperate, and use that time out of the Euros to basically like recuperate, bit his foot back, and so hopefully by the beginning of the season, which will be in like September, sorry, not September, like August, he can possibly be ready. But if he plays in the Euros, I just think that like and I know that there'll be pressure from England to get him into that team. I won't be surprised. But for me, the best thing for him to do is rest, get his like fitness back up, and then, because if you think about it, he's not going to be. I highly doubt he'll be ready for Manchester United by end of the season. At best, maybe last week. So why would you pick someone who's just come back from injury?
That's what we do, though. That's what we do.
The Euros. You shouldn't do that.
We've done it that many times. We've done it with Beckham, Rooney, with the metatarsal injury, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. We shouldn't, but
we should be a big club. We should put our foot down and go, he can't play. He can't. He needs to recover. He can't with his injuries. You know, he can't use other options like, I don't know, who we got. I mean, Calvert-Lewin, Core Vardy out of retirement. I don't know, something like that. You know, so like something else.
We just replace him with Greenwood. Give him Greenwood instead.
Greenwood, even to be honest, you know, but he's fit. You know, so like that's what's. Or even, you know, you've got Callum Wilson. There are other forwards that we can. What's his Tammy Abraham, even, for goodness sake, you know. So like,
isn't he injured as well now though for Chelsea?
I think he's back fit now. He played against Spurs. He played against Spurs.
Yeah, came off the bench. Yeah.
Right, let's move on to the second topic.
Sorry, my fault.
No, it's okay.
That was good.
I might do. You inspire me. I might do like an injury update video and like go for the medical.
You should do, man. Obviously, you've got the expertise on that as well. Definitely do that.
Might be interesting. Hopefully, Manchester United don't come and sue me.
Dr. G. Dr. G.
That's a name now.
Yes. Dr. G is in the house. Yeah, you could do a little segment. Now it's time for Dr. G. Let's look at Man United's injuries. Yeah, man.
Definitely, guys. Right. Okay. Moving on to the
next.
This is good. I like it. So let's just briefly talk about Bruno Fernandes, guys, like, and just how like he is actually sort of transforming this Manchester United go. We're briefly because we already kind of talked about it a bit before, but like, how do you feel that Bruno Fernandes has transformed this team?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, anyway, I would say just the fact that it's just so refreshing having a midfielder who, whenever he takes the ball, his first thought is to play a positive pass forward and look in behind. And I think if you've got someone in your squad who can do that and do that at the quality that he can do it, then you're going to have more your forward players feeling more confident about making runs in behind, and that they're going to actually, that it's going to come to something. Because I think Fred, obviously, in the last few months has come out of his shell a bit and has been doing very well, and he's been looking for those sort of balls in behind, but he doesn't have the same quality that Bruno Fernandes does. And when you're a forward player, if you know you've got a midfielder in behind, if you look at all the great teams, that Spain team that won the World Cup and the Euros, the forward players knew they had Iniesta and Xavi, that were going to be looking and finding them. If you look at Man City, David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, even the Liverpool team, you've got brilliant midfielders there. All these great teams have midfielders who are constantly looking over the top for their forward players, and that's the way you're going to create more chances. And that's something that obviously we've struggled to do. So with Bruno Fernandes in the side, it would just be a huge help, because then you'll see the likes of Martial making more runs in behind, Daniel James, Greenwood making more runs. And the more positive you can be with your runs in behind, the more that you're going to trouble the opposition defenders, and the more you're going to probably create chances and score goals. And that's just simple, really. So I think, with Bruno Fernandes in that midfield, it's such a refreshing thing to have. Obviously, when Pogba comes back as well, if he does ever play for United again, which is looking more and more unlikely. But you never know. If he does, you've then got two players that have that sort of ability to look in behind, and then we'll be looking at creating a lot of chances then. So I think Bruno Fernandes had a brilliant impact on this team, and as I said before, he hopefully continues to have this impact, and if he does, I think we've got a very, very good chance of claiming that fourth spot or even the third spot. Some people yesterday, I was talking to, saying that we could potentially be pushing for third if results go well. I'm not sure if we should start saying that too early. But don't walk before we can run. But
let's chill.
If we can, start being more consistent, then you never know what could happen. But Bruno Fernandes, really refreshing addition to the squad, and we'll definitely create more chances with him in it. It's just about finishing now.
Shane, what do you think?
Again, I always echo what Kieran says, to be honest, but it's just basically with regards to what Kieran had mentioned, the forwards getting used to Bruno.
Oh, sorry, Bruno, guys, stop me for a second, Sean, because Don Ragler makes a point which I think would be good for you to address. Actually, your point, and he says, "Will opposition now start taking Bruno out of the game, given he makes us tick? How will Ollie adapt to this?"
So, good point. So, I will go back to that, but from what Kieran mentioned about forwards getting used to Bruno getting used to the forwards, they'll make. One of them, I can't remember which game it was, but I remember seeing Greenwood and Martial were playing, and they were making certain runs just before we signed Bruno. They were making certain runs and trying to angle their runs and bend it and then running behind, and our midfield just weren't seeing it. Or if they did see it, they didn't have the confidence to try and attempt to take the pass. Now, we kind of got egg on our face here because we said we weren't in for Bruno in the summer because of his passing statistics weren't good enough. So, so which was interesting, I think his pass completion ratio percentage was 69%, 67 or 69% on against Watford. However, he had a hand in all three goals, obviously scoring one himself. So, and I always say, when you see players in an advanced position like that, the reason that will be is because they take risks. And that's what we've not been doing. How many years have we been passing sideways or backwards, or it's been too slow? So he affects the game in a positive way. He takes risks where needed and where necessary. So for me, that's why you'll get percentages like that. But to touch on Don Ragner's point, ultimately, if you've got teams game planning for one player, there's another player you got to worry about. So that's why I mentioned beforehand, where I was saying that I thought Ollie would start with Martial, Greenwood, and Bruno, because if you've got players that can create their own opportunities to have a shot on goal or create for others, it's only going to cause problems. So you're going to garner more attention. So, for example, you've got Pogba, Bruno Fernandes, Martial, Rashford, and Greenwood all in the same side. They can game plan for Bruno Fernandes. They can game plan for Pogba. But how do they game plan for Greenwood, Martial, and Rashford all in the same side? So they can game plan for Bruno Fernandes now, but we've also got Greenwood who can do his own thing, and Martial that can do his own thing. And as we get the other flair players back, again, if Rashford plays this season, if Pogba plays again this season for us, then good luck trying to stop all 5 of them guys trying to come at you. And if they do play in the same team, but the point is, you play more players that have a chance of affecting the game, either by creating for others or making your own shot. You can game plan for that individual, but you're leaving someone else wide open. If that's what happens.
I think the key is I almost feel like Don Ryan was asking a leading question, because I feel like the key is almost the second part of this question is that how will Ollie adapt to this? And and that's the source of, like,
does he have the tactical nous?
Yeah, exactly. So and a very big part, because let's be real, like, the way we're playing, since Bruno Fernandes has come in, is not any different to how we've been playing all season. The only difference is that obviously we have the quality that Bruno Fernandes obviously brought to the team. So of course, if we had a better number 9, if we had a better right winger, if we had better players, then I've got no doubt that Manchester United would be higher than they were in the table, just surely based on the quality of players that we have alone. The issue is that Solskjaer's, if Bruno Fernandes is man-marked out of the game, and I imagine that increasingly he will be man-marked out of the game when people realise just how good he is, until Pogba comes back, we don't, essentially, right now, we don't have, the question is you could almost argue the question could be, what happens if Bruno Fernandes gets injured? It's the idea of, like, we don't actually have a player, if Bruno Fernandes gets injured, for example, that can come in for Bruno Fernandes. All we have is, we have players, but they are Pereira and Jesse Lingard, and Matich, so it's almost like, without Bruno Fernandes, we will just go back to the way that we have always played, So, but obviously McTominay's back, but I don't think that necessarily changes the way we play. We are literally waiting on a Pogba, and that's assuming that Pogba will be. I would have said Angel Gomez could have been that player, but clearly
he's not going to play.
He's not going to play anymore. So
he's not. As much as that hurts me, but yeah, he's not going to play.
It's quite frustrating, but he's not signed a new contract, blah 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 blah. That means that if we throw him out the club, fine, etc. Okay, let's move on to Manchester United versus Club Brugge preview. Obviously, Manchester United got that away goal away, even though I'd argue that we didn't really play. We've had better games. We've had better games. We obviously, the second part is obviously this week Thursday. We're at home at Old Trafford. We've got the away goal. We don't have a game on Sunday because of the rearranged fixtures, etc. So that won't be till next week. So, for all intents and purposes, there's no reason, in my opinion, why Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can't put out a strong team just to make absolutely sure. I still think it's worth giving Igalo a go up top, but what do you guys think?
Shane, you go for it.
So, Igalo, for me, that's the one it's crying out for. That really and truly, you start with a stronger team, as you said, G. Kill the game off, which is what I believe we've got. If we play our strongest team, we can do, and then take the necessary players off. Take off your Greenwoods, take off your Bruno Fernandes, but keep a strong defence, because that's ultimately. I'd still start with Romero in goal, but I'd start with a strong defence. I'd play Brandon Williams instead of Shaw, because that's not really a weakening so much as in that position. But I'd definitely play Bailly and Maguire. I can only think with relation to Bailly not starting that maybe he's on a sort of minutes restriction in terms of how many minutes he can play per week, or I don't know. But it was just so strange that he didn't feature at all, but he was on the bench. But
I just think it's strange that he's not with his rotating players, because like
you can't do that with your centre backs though. That's the only thing. Well, you can, but
he should, because like we know that, for example, Harry Maguire had a hip injury problem,
yeah, he did, but he still played, didn't he?
Still played, exactly. Yeah. So in my mind, I'm kind of like, you've now got the blessing Eric Bailly's back. So if Harry Maguire's got a hip problem, and he's got a hip problem, please let this not be, because it's not going to surprise me. We're now deep into Europa League, we're now pushing top 4. Oh, by the way, Harry Maguire's out for 4 weeks with a hip problem. You're like, for goodness sake,
that would be typical, though, wouldn't it? Realistically, that would be typical. I just feel like you say, go with the strongest team is the best option in terms of your defence and your central midfield. Start with Dan James again on the left. Start with Igalo up top instead of Martial, and start Greenwood on the right hand side. To me, again, you're not losing too much by the way of a goal threat if you start with Igalo, and he needs match fitness as well. The game he should have started was obviously the away leg, but I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know, because now at least that one's a bit of a free hit, whereas this one you've got to try and get the win. If you want to win the competition, you've got to get the win. So, but no, start with your strongest defence, with maybe the exception of Luke Shaw. I hear what you're saying in regards to rotating, but yes and no. Yes, because like you say, that if there is potential, we're blessed to have Eric Bailly back. But no, if centre backs for me is the one position on the pitch you don't rotate. For me, that's the one positions where you play you either play your best, or you swap them both out. You don't swap your centre backs around. For me, you play Bailly and Maguire to the end of the season to see if Bailly can bloody sustain and not get injured and become that guy, and we don't have to go and spend another 80 mil on the centre back. I'd love to see Eric Bailly reach his potential, because when he first came from Villarreal, he just looked immense, but injuries became more injuries and he's fallen by the wayside. But yeah, with the exception of maybe Igalo and Brandon Williams and maybe Sergio Romero, I'd start with my strongest lineup, really.
Just a few before I get to you, Kieran. Sorry, just a few comments by some of the guys. So just 3 things, just for him to address. So Somali Flame says, why are you not after? He's a Chelsea fan, by the way. Why are you not a fan after Van der Beek would suit you perfectly and an upgrade on your current players? What are you guys going to quickly comment on that?
Well, I mean, he's definitely a good player. No doubt about that. Obviously, part of that, Ajax team in last season Champions League. But yeah, I think it's difficult to think about, transfers that we need right now. Obviously, Paul Pogba is a massive question mark. I think he's going to leave at the end of the season. I think that's pretty much 80% done. I would say there's maybe a tiny chance he stays, but maybe if we get Champions League. But I still think that with all the stuff going on, he's going to leave. So bringing in another midfielder would be ideal, of course. We are starting to see, the likes of Fred and McTominay step up somewhat, but I still think that, Van der Beek would be a good addition. All I'd say is, I wouldn't want to bring him in on a really inflated price. I think if we can get him for the right price, bring him in, and then also because I think there are other positions in the team that we need to strengthen a bit more than central midfield. So for me, I think Van der Beek, whilst obviously he's a great player, and he's also still young as well. So if we brought him in, he's got a bit of time to develop. I think, I wouldn't mind that signing at all, but I think we need to maybe prioritise some areas over others. But still, I wouldn't mind that signing at all. So yeah, why we're not after him? Maybe we are. Who knows? Who knows what the plan is?
Who knows what the plan is? That's almost like the what's it called again? The catchphrase of Manchester United right now. Who knows what the plan is?
Who knows? Yeah, it's true.
that's our catchphrase.
That's very true. Do you know with Van der Beek? An interesting point with Van der Beek and Frankie de Jong is Barcelona. Apparently, the reason they signed Frankie de Jong over Van der Beek is because de Jong's more athletic. However, Van der Beek's a bit sort of like bigger and stronger. But for me, I'd be looking for another Paul Pogba in terms of the type of player, an athletic, strong, technically gifted player. There's not too many out there that I'm aware of anyway. And now it's interesting. I tried to sort of list players that I believe would be on Paul Pogba's level for his technical ability, or not even on his level, but potentially to get to that level and have his physicality. The only person that I'll come close with is Milinkovic-Savic in terms of his, but that's looking at stature as well. I'm talking physical ability also and technical ability.
He's kind of fallen the wayside in Serie A right now, Milinkovic-Savic as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, I genuinely believe that that's part of it is being he's almost stagnated there, where he didn't get his move when he was supposed to. That's a difference in terms of Bruno Fernandes and him showing his professionalism, because he could have kicked up an absolute stinker with not being able to leave. Not being able to leave a little bit earlier and the deal dragging on, but he remained professional. That's one of the things I really, really admired about him before he came to us. But Van der Beek, he's a ball-playing central midfielder, and I'm saying that's what I'd want. I'd want a possession-playing midfielder who can receive the ball under pressure and make a pass. But in the Premier League, you need athleticism to a degree, and I don't know. I don't know if he'd be the answer. It'd be a good sign. He's not great on what we've got, but in terms of it, is he the answer? We have to bear in mind we've got to replace Pogba still, because Pogba on his own wasn't enough. We've now got Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes on his own won't be enough. We've got to look to replace. We do have to look to replace Pogba. And I don't know. For me, I'm thinking in my head, because we've got Paul Pogba, how many players are out there like him? Well, I don't know.
This goes on to Rasmus's question. Well, I should answer briefly. Like, if we qualify for the Champions League somehow, do you think Solskjaer has a pulling power for top-class players? I personally don't think so. And then Don Ragnar says maybe Bruno can mentor Pereira to improve his decision-making or to make his decent technical ability count.
That's a stretch. That's a big stretch.
Possibly. But he also says, I thought Van der Beek was confirmed to go to Real Madrid end of the season. I didn't know that, actually. Is it confirmed for him to go to Madrid end of the season?
I'm not too sure about that.
I'm not entirely
but again, with Real Madrid, their president Florentino Perez is very sort of high on their other midfielder coming through, Valverde, which is what was rumored, which is why Florentino Perez didn't want to spend the big money on Pogba when they've got Valverde. They've still got Cruz. They've still got Casemiro. Obviously, Modric is still there at the moment, but I think his contract runs out in the summer. But yeah, they've got young players, and I think that's the point that he was making. But I don't know. I don't know about Van der Beek. I don't know. I'm sort of like undecided.
Okay, fair enough. Quickly going back, obviously, to this Club Brugge preview, just on score predictions, because I have a feeling that I know how Ollie will set up. He'll set up with two holding midfielders. I just hope he plays a strong team. What do you guys think the score is going to be?
Go on,
do you think we're going to win this game?
Well, I think it's difficult to predict. I think, obviously, again, it's one of those things. If we play like we did in the second half, I think we could, we could win the game 2-3-0 again. But Club Brugge are no mugs. Obviously in the Champions League, they held Real Madrid to a 2-2 draw in the Bernabeu as well. Even though Madrid, they're not as strong this season, but they're a very, very good outfit. And yeah, Bruges causes a lot of problems in the home leg. And I think it's going to be. I think the game's not going to be as end to end as it was. I think. If we can get that first goal, I think we'll then take control of the tie. If we, let the game drift on to the 60th, 70th minute and there's no goals in the game, I think it could be, it could be, squeaky bum time. I feel like ultimately, I reckon my prediction, it's hard to predict the score, but I reckon I'm going to go for a 2-1 home win to United. Obviously, meaning we go through 3-2 on aggregate. So I don't think it's going to be wholly convincing. I think Brugge are going to be in the game to the very end, but I think ultimately we'll just about squeak through.
Okay, cool. I guess I'll give my score prediction as well, just as going into the next segment. Which actually, there's 2 more segments left. I think I agree with Kieran. I think that it will come with if he starts Bailly or not. I think if he starts Bailly, I think we might be able to keep a clean sheet. I really do, because the thing I noticed about the Club Brugge game was it was again the same thing with pace over the top. Like the goal basically came from they'll know this as well, because they'll think, right, Solskjaer's going to play 3 at the back. Hopefully he doesn't. Let's say he does. Let's just lob the ball up, give the ball up to our pacey wingers, and run behind the defenders, because Maguire and Lindelof, more so Lindelof, is not good in the air, and they're not going to be able to chase back. I think Bailly will give them a different problem. And while yes, he's a bit reckless sometimes. He is. At least anything he does in the Europa League won't necessarily transfer over to the Premier League. So obviously, if he does get sent off in the Europa League, well, okay, fine. Worst come we go back to Maguire and Lindelof then. It's no big deal. You'll still be able to play in the Premier League, no problem. So I'm not particularly concerned. The only reckless thing will be if he gets an injury, obviously. But in terms of, and obviously if he gives 2 or 3 penalties away for some reason, but I don't think he'll do that. But in terms of bookings, it's no big deal really, So we have enough squad depth to be able to deal with a red card. So basically, if Bailly plays, I think this could be, more important, if Bailly and Bruno Fernandes play, because Bruno Fernandes didn't start against Club Brugge, he was brought on with Fred. Yeah. Essentially, if we play our strongest team, but plus or minus Sergio Romero, Igalo, and possibly Williams, for example, at left back to give, I still think we'll win at least 2-0.
That'd be decent, to be fair.
Yeah, I'd have to echo that. I'm thinking 2-3-0 as well. If we go with our strongest line, hopefully we do. But Ollie does some strange stuff. I don't know. I really don't. I just don't know if Ollie.
Ollie does some strange stuff. We'll talk. So, this is the next penultimate thing, Europa League versus top 4. Because I've seen that in a few people. Are we able to? Should we compete in both? Should we? What is it that we should do? Do we have the squad to be able to compete with both? What do you guys think? Do you think we can?
I think we can.
There's the meme I thought you say. I'm not political. I'm not political or anything like that, but I thought this is a dig to the Arsenal fan.
That's quality. That's quality. That is quality.
Because whatever you say, at least you know that Arsenal not going to finish top 4. Fair play to Arteta what he's doing, but Arsenal not going to finish top 4 this season. They're still 10 points from Chelsea, so Banter FC will be Banter FC. But
True.
But what about United, guys? What should we do? Should we go for both? Should we prioritize? What do you think is how do you think we should do this?
Top 4. Top 4, and also go for the win. Listen, how do you become winners? Serial winners. You win. Simple as that. So for me, you go for broke.
I only bring it up, Shane, because Mourinho obviously did this a few seasons back when we won the league, and he made a choice. He threw the league away, and obviously got the Champions League in his, I think, first season at United.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
no, for me, you don't have to. That's the whole reason you bring in people like Igalo. We've got injuries that were long-term injuries coming back. I think the only players that will be missing is Rashford and Pogba for the foreseeable. You've got Tunzebi back. You're getting Fusu Mensah back. Bailly's back. McTominay's back. It's obviously Chong's going to be a bit part player between now and the end of the season. But the point is, Why go for just the one? For me, you try and win. I know it sounds, cliche, but as Fergie said, you try and win every competition you're in. So obviously we're not going to win the league, but we need to finish, for other reasons further down the line, we need to try and get into Champions League. So go for the Champions League and try and win the Europa League for me. FA Cup, that's something you're going to be in you're going to be in every season, aren't you? But Europa League, I'd like to hope and, I'd like to say that we're not going to be in that again anytime soon. So let's try and win it.
What do you think, Kieran?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'd have to agree with what Shane said. I think, if we, I think we can go for both at this moment in time. I think as well, it's probably a bit too early to judge whether we should split off. I mean, it'd be interesting to know, because I can't remember off the top of my head when Jose Mourinho kind of finally decided to kind of, to sack the league off and just go for the Europa League. I'm not sure whether it was at the quarterfinal or semi-final stage. I'm not sure how deep it was. But I think at this moment in time, obviously, we're still in only the round of 32 of the Europa League. Still got, quite a decent proportion of Premier League games left, and we're only 3 points off fourth as well. So there's a lot to play for. And I think, as Shane pointed out, obviously we brought in Igalo. We've got players coming back now. We do have a bit more squad rotation than we had at the start of the season, or even in the midway point of the season. So I think we can go for both at this moment in time, and I would like to see us go for both. I think if we were to win the Europa League and to see Solskjaer lift the trophy, I think for all Manchester United fans, it'd be an amazing sight to see a club legend lift the trophy. So if we're able to win the Europa League, that'd be amazing. And it's not going to be easy as well, because some good teams coming down from the Champions League as well are going to be in the mix. So if we win that, that'd be brilliant. Also, top four, being only 3 points behind it and having, playing as well as we are in the league at the moment. As I said, if we can keep up that consistency, there's no reason why we can't go for both and get top four and Europa League, and potentially even pick up an FA Cup. I mean, obviously, 2 trophies and top four would be almost a miraculous season from where we were at Christmas, where a lot of people were calling for Solskjaer's head. So, yeah, I think if we can still go for it, I think maybe another month down the line we can then start to decide where we are in terms of the league, in terms of the Europa League, if we're still in the Europa League, that is, and I hope we are. But I think we can judge better a bit further down the line, maybe.
Yeah.
Don Wagner, as a good point, says all he needs to realize squad rotation is all well and good, but in the knockout phase of Europe, you need strong lineups, not Lingard, Matt, and Pereira all starting at the same time. Yeah, that is that did surprise me against Club Brugge. I was like, I don't really understand what's going on here. Like, how can you put a midfielder with Matich? Because people were slating Matich, and I was like, if Matich, all Matich has in front of him is these three, even Messi would struggle. You know what I mean? You can't like it. It's he was playing this weekend. And why his first half wasn't great. Obviously when they picked up, he was doing better. So I don't know. The fact of the matter is that I don't want to see. As I've said at the start, we've got a break anyway, because there's obviously no fixture for Manchester United next Sunday because of the reschedule. So from yesterday to Thursday, that's 4 days rest. And then after the game, you've got like a good week, rest. You know what I mean? So I don't see why we have to have full sale changes, aside from obviously Romero can be in goal. That's fair. He can stay in goal. It's fine. Maybe Brandon Williams at left back, possibly Dallow at right. Maybe you might want to make those altercations, possibly. But for me, the midfield three is our strongest midfield. Matich, Fred, and Bruno Fernandes. And then up top, I'd actually do it in that you actually put Igalo in the number 9 and then put Martial on the left, and then Greenwood on the right. That's, for me, is how you would start. So that way, or you can alternate down James between Martial. I don't know, but that's what I would start with. So that way Igalo gets some game time and Martial's on the pitch to give us some stuff.
What would be interesting, with regards to Ollie playing 3 at the back, and when I've seen it against us going 3 at the back against Bruges, I was half hoping to see Wan-Bissaka in there as part of that back 3, like as a Maguire. I don't know, Wan-Bissaka and Bailly, Delo, Williams as your wing backs. They're naturally more attacking. And then you've got maybe Matich and Fred, and then you've got your three up top. I just I don't know. But then it's just I don't feel like we'd hold the ball well in the two central midfielders. That's the only thing. But technically, Dalot is very good going forward, and so is Brandon Williams. And I just feel if we had like Igalo and Martial starting, I don't know. I just think we can cause a bit more problems and still be solid at the back with our selection. Again, it's just questioning Ollie's selection. That's all.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So the general impression, I'll leave it to the comments, guys. What do you guys think of the comments? Do you think that we should go for both, or do you think we should prioritize one or the other? Obviously, everyone has different opinions, and obviously, you guys are sort of saying that like with Manchester United, we should obviously go for, we definitely go for both and try and compete in all competitions. And I 90% agree with you guys. So I think my only sort of doubt in my mind is just the fact that it's just what's going to happen with potential injuries. I think the positive thing right now is that we're getting a lot of players back. So obviously McTominay's come back, Lowe came back, we've got Bruno Fernandes and Garland in January, etc. So our squad depth is better now than it was earlier. Whereas, the likes of Tottenham, for example, so are suffering from injuries. Rasmus says go for both. So in that respect, I agree with you guys. I think just my concern, for me, is that if we're in like the last month and a bit of the season and we are so close to either one of them, I just wonder when, just a part of me is like, would it just not be better to get one of them? I guess it depends on who we play, because if in the Europa League final we end up playing, it might be a very, very tough team. And Inter Milan, for example, and yet our last 3 games in the top 4 are like, I don't know, last 4 games of the season are against like, banter teams. Then maybe I might think, you know what, it's probably still okay, depending on how the rest of the season goes. But I just feel like I don't want to be in a situation where we go all out and get nothing, where we could potentially like nab one, and then suddenly you've got like a Champions League spot where we can obviously attract the players that we want. We can push on to next season. Although there is an argument to be had that maybe some people want Ole Gunnar Solskjaer moved on. And that is our final conversation that I'll let you guys that we're going to is, will Ole be United manager at the end of the season? What do you guys... What do you guys think?
Okay. Well, I think
careful now, Kieran. Careful now.
Not to be controversial, but no, I think. Well, I think probably. I don't see the board sacking him unless there's an absolute disaster between now and the end of the season. I think in terms of whether he's going to be here at the start of next season, that's a whole different question. Especially with people, I see a lot of people on social media, especially saying Mauricio Pochettino's name. A lot of people saying we should bring him in, and I think in terms of from now to the end of the season, I think Solskjaer's going to keep his job. I think they're just going to trust him. I agree with that personally, just because I don't see who you're going to bring in from now to the end of the season who's going to really progress this team with the players that we've got at our disposal. So I think if you are going to make a managerial change, it's always best to do it at the end of the season so they can have pre-season. And obviously with the Euros, that's going to be slightly disrupted. But obviously, you have a pre-season, then you can, bring in the transfers you want. So I think he'll probably be at United this season, but towards the end of the season. And yeah, as I said, hopefully he's holding a trophy and has a top 4 spot. That's all we can hope for, really, as a Man United fan. But yeah, as you guys have, I do question, his managerial nous, his tactical nous, and also who's making all the decisions, whether it's just Solskjaer or whether obviously his management team, Carrick, McKenna, feeling having an impact on that. And whether maybe some of our poor decisions in games are down to them rather than Solskjaer. So it's an interesting debate to be had. But in terms of whether I think Solskjaer's going to be here at the end of the season, I think he will. If I was going to have a little bit of a hot take here, I would say it's very unlikely that Solskjaer is going to be here at the start of next season, unless he does obviously win the Europa League or gets top four. I think if he doesn't get top four, or if we don't get Champions League qualification, I think the board will look elsewhere. That's what I think.
Okay, Shane, what do you think? Before I get into some of these comments, well, actually, before I go into, because I could quickly read these comments. Sorry, Shane.
Yeah, sure, no worries.
So Rasmus A says we should go for both. If we have to go for one of them, then top four for me. Because depending on one result, just it's way too risky, which is fair enough. Somali Flame says Poch just waiting for the end of the season to take over. Rasmus A says, I hope not. He's a legend as a player, but trash as a manager. Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Wait. Sorry, was that to Poch or was that to Ollie? I wonder what was.
I think probably Ollie.
Was it to Ollie? Was it? And then Don Rang says the board will keep Ollie and our £1 fish coaching staff. I just...
Oh my god!
He always says the funniest things, man. I love it. Thanks so much, man. Shout out to you. It's just it just really makes me laugh. It's funny because it's true as well, man. It's
true. That's why it's so funny, because it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. You know what? One thing because I was looking at something the other day, and I'm like, why is Pochettino coming out saying he's really interested in the Manchester United job? If there's no interest already been shown in him, why are you going to put, unless you really, and I don't know the guy from Adam obviously, but why are you going to sort of like put yourself out there to look like a bit of a fool if you've got no interest coming back your way?
Yeah.
Listen, I think that's what happened in the first place with Spurs, is that he kind of anticipated that he'd get the job after Mourinho. Obviously, well, after I don't think he expected Solskjaer to be given the job full time, because obviously initially that we said that we was going to give it to the end of the season, then make a decision, but we, like always, we make hasty decisions. But
we do.
What I always say is, well, on this occasion, I'd turn the question around and say, if you had a choice of Max Allegri, who's also very interested in the job, Mauricio Pochettino, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. This is, by the way, taking Solskjaer out of the concept that he's already been Manchester United manager. So Allegri, Pochettino, Solskjaer, and Ryan Giggs. Who would you have out of them four managers?
Oh, open a can of worms there, Shane.
Yeah. And then I'll tell you why I asked that question afterwards.
Yeah,
can I throw a spanner in the works? Can I throw a
no,
spanner?
G, no, stop it, G.
Can I? Because you like my pick. You like my pick.
Go on, mate. Go on.
Because we did this to Van Gaal. Because Van Gaal, remember Van Gaal was Netherlands coach. And we coached him because international football. I think if we can, if we offer him big bucks, why don't we get Luis Enrique? Why don't we get Luis Enrique from Spain? He's Spanish coach.
That is a spanner.
He's Spanish coach.
Why you got to do this, G? Why you got to do this?
I know. But I just think, I'm like, aside, unless he does like go in England or something like that, like he's a Spanish, it's international football is going to break. Like, he is a good manager. I think he's extremely underrated at Barcelona. He's coached international football. I think if he does well with Spain, I think he'll leave. If we offer him a good deal, he said he has not got a problem going back to club football. Why not? Like,
against his old compatriot.
Yeah,
Barcelona Guardiola,
exactly. No one's talking about him, but like for everyone's saying coach, but for me, Lewis,
you better pattern this, mate. I tell you.
I might do a video on it. I'm like, because no one.
I think you should.
No one is saying anything about it.
No one said anything. So you need to do a video on it, pattern it, have your Dr. G hour, and also,
we just come up with ideas for your channel.
No, I'll choose Pochettino because he had a point about the different ways, but I just thought I'd put that out there because I just think that's one manager who, for me, seems available because he's doing international football and he's a very good manager. And if we're talking about, he would change the style of play of football wouldn't be necessarily like Manchester United of old, but I still think as a coach like he's a good coach, and I still think we were playing a nice wing of football. So I don't know. I just think that certainly if we're not looking at those types of managers, and we're looking at getting, I don't know, some B-Tech people in, because I've never been a fan of Allegri personally. That's you know our boards. You know, no disrespect to anyone who did B-Techs. Look, it's. But you know,
too late, GG. Way too late. You said it now. Way too late.
It's gone. It's in the internet forever now. It's done. It's done. It's over, mate. It's over for you.
No backtracking now, G. You've already said it.
Twitter's already going mad.
Oh man, Twitter's gonna go mad. Oh man, there's that the hour over. That's God.
No, Enrique's a fantastic shout, though. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think Enrique's a fantastic shout, but yeah, go on, Kier. What would be who'd be your pick?
Well, I was going to say in the comments, I've just seen Rasmus. He's got a very interesting session. Yeah, Bielsa. Bielsa's a very interesting one.
Okay. Right, stop right there. Right. If we're going to be doing this, I'm going to say the guy with the coolest name in the Premier League, Nuno Espirito Santos. That's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to say. If we're doing that, then that's whose name I'm going to put forward. If we're going to do that,
I think Enrique and even that's a very good shout. I mean,
realistically, though, would we be able to prize them from Wolves, though?
That's the thing.
Obviously, got to think about like if you're going to get, because obviously getting like the Poches and Allegri's is fine because obviously they're out of work, so it's easy. With Wolves, obviously you'd have to pay Wolves like a substantial amount of money.
He wouldn't want to leave. He wouldn't want to leave. And Marco Bielsa wouldn't come to Manchester United either. He's already said that he doesn't want to manage a big club like that because they've got their own ways of how to run a club, and he's been able to go into Leeds and do what he wants to do. Yeah. So it's a good shout with Marco Bielsa, but he's already said.
I think that might be.
Yeah.
Don Wagner says Erik ten Hag for me. So that's Ajax coach, isn't it? I think. Yeah. So
Can we stop this? Can we stop this name dropping, please?
The thing is, I was going to add another name. I mean, I was going to say people are saying, was it Julian Nagelsmann from RB Leipzig?
Oh yes, man.
People saying,
man. That is G.
Right, that's it. I've had enough, lad. This is you're making my life quite complicated now. I'll be honest with you.
I'll tell you what, though, if the Man United board are listening, the amount of ideas you've just given them, I mean,
I'm telling you,
it's a massive list. It's a massive list.
It's true. Hey, listen, make sure, however we need to get paid royalties after this, right? Yeah. Just make sure it can happen because this is gold dust. This is for them guys. Yeah, it really is. But,
oh my God! Yeah.
No, I the reason I asked that question was because Kieran, who did you say, by the way? Solskjaer, Poch, and Allegri.
I'd go Poch. I mean, it's a toss up between Poch and Allegri. I think Giggs, I don't think he's at the right level. I think he could be in the future, but not right now. I'd say Poch. Although the reason why it's a bit of a toss up between the two is that Allegri obviously has won stuff. He's got a winning mentality. But then my other thinking is that we've employed Van Gaal and Mourinho, who both had winning mentalities, and they didn't end up working out for us. So whether we need to go down a different road, and I think Pochettino, even though he hasn't won anything, he was able to transform that Spurs team from being in kind of 5th, 6th place team to challenging for the league. So I think if you can do that, if you can bring in the right players, if we back him properly, I think you could have a really good effect. So I'd probably choose Poch out of those. Right. So I'll tell you why I asked that question. So Giggs has already come out and said after the European Championships he'll be looking for a club. He said obviously his ideal job would be Manchester United, but he's not going to nick it off his mate. Obviously, Allegri's obviously said that he's interested in the Manchester United job. I don't know how real those quotes are because that's from the Italian press. But he said he'd be enamoured with managing outside of the Italian top flight, especially in Premier League. Obviously, Pochettino has come out and said what he said, and I can't remember the last statement where Pochettino he come up with a very strange statement saying he'd be very interested in managing a project, a big club project. I'm trying to think.
who else that could be other than us?
I mean, Chelsea, maybe, possibly, but
Yeah.
But would he go to?
But they've just taken on Lampard, haven't they?
And also, like, I think he's pretty much said that he wouldn't go to necessarily a direct rival team, which is why he wouldn't necessarily go to Chelsea. And
Chelsea, yeah, true.
I think he said something along that to that effect. So,
but him saying all that stuff to me says that he's already had contact from United. But I just can't see why we'd be in a position to say, well, yeah. The only way I'll see Ollie going is if we don't finish within the top 6 places, basically outside of Europe, or outside of Europe. That's the only way I'll see Ollie being sacked is if we finish outside of European place. Other than that, I think his job's safe.
Just looking at this comment, so I'm gonna have to wrap things up because I've got to head off in a minute. So, but Don Lang says, here's a better question. If Ollie was sacked by United, which Premier League teams would legit be lining up for his signature?
None.
Which I think says the state of... No, but it's a sound question.
It's a very good question. It's a very good question.
The reality is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, this is the truth, is that he's in this job, his post now, because he's a legend of the club and because he loves Manchester United. That is why, and that's fair enough, but there is a question to be had that, like, if he was to be sacked, would he go into, would any Premier League team want him?
No. And here's another question for you: would Ollie have been a Manchester United legend if he didn't score the winning goal in the '99 final?
That is a question. What a question! Oh, I don't know.
You don't have to answer that now. I'm just putting it
well,
out
that's
there.
the next podcast.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I think something with that question is that's often how legends are made at clubs. It's usually a lot of the time it's that one unique individual moments. Chelsea, like for example, Drogba at Chelsea. He was very good for them, obviously, but like Chelsea fans remember, it was him that basically won them their first Champions League. That will be the moment they'll remember, not necessarily his goals against like lower teams or something, but that sort of. So you remember those players, those big moments. I think, but that's an interesting. we should surely debate that on a phone. Is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer still a legend for Manchester United? Like sending
I'm not trying to start a war here. I'm
just just subscribe to the United Man on Twitter, and you can address the questions right there. Send those DMs.
Please, no deference. No deference.
Oh god, yeah.
Oh man. Rasmus says maybe Hearts, that's in the Scottish Premier League. I know, but still PL. Okay, so Scottish Premier League, yeah, fair enough.
Technically speaking, I like that one. I like that answer. Good answer, Rasmus.
And Don Magnus says, I always like Sherman's 1999 final goal a bit more. Yeah. Sheringham versus Solskjaer. Who was the better player? That is, geez, man. This is getting into like a video very, very fast. That was not the intent of the tour, guys, at all. It just sort of happened. It just happened that way, guys. Sorry.
We just went there,
Just happened.
I've always said this. I do want Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to be successful, and if from now to the end of the season somehow he manages to bring about this brilliant style of football and becomes a tactical masterclass, of course I'm going to back him, like anyone would. It's just that I'm just not seeing it, and I'm still in shock even months on to this day as to why we stopped playing the way we played in the first
pre-season. Yeah, man.
In the first 3 months, and since we got the job, it's like, right, 4-3-3, and then once we got the job, it's like, right, enough of that football. We're going to play this way. Yeah. It's like, well, you got the job,
it worked.
You played. Why are you changing the way you played? Like, even if the way we played wasn't going to continue working, at least persevere with it. Don't change the way you play to sort. Yeah, that I don't know. That
was baffling. That really was
me. It really did. I'm just hoping and praying that like he just somehow turns it around, and that just means that we'll comfortably get top 4, get a trophy, and because to be honest, at times it's been boring to watch Manchester United play. Like it's just not been exciting, because of how lethargic sideways passing, lack of creativity we had. So I just hope he turns around. I hope he turns around.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Okay. I think that's it. Thanks everyone for joining and taking part in the comments, as well as Shane and Kieran. Draco's obviously not here. Please go and subscribe to their channels. That's the United Man. Links in the description. That's the United Man, Red Devil Weekly, and Jacob Evolve. Awesome Manchester United content. Really appreciate your support. I will take Shane's suggestion on the United Foundation sort of idea. So because more collaborative
and Kieran's Dr. G.
Yeah,
Dr.
man. Maybe I should create a YouTube channel or something. We just upload videos to that. Some interesting stuff would be good. So
it's true.
It's a $1 million idea in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you guys are annoyed about us cussing Ollie as a legend, United Man's Twitter. Go at it. Let him know on DM how you think.
Send him a letter to
Yeah. Oh, dear me. It's mad.
And we'll
too late. I said it now. I can't take it back.
Yeah, you can't take it back. It's online, isn't it? Yeah.
Much like the B-Tech comment. Wasn't that right, G?
That's why I'm just watching myself. I'm not saying anything. I'm just like...
Kieran's playing it smart. Don't worry, Q. We'll get you, mate. We'll get you.
One day. I'm just on my own PR team. I'm just like making sure.
All right, lads. It's been good. Take care, everyone in the comments. All the best, guys.
Take care.
By the way, will there be Red Devil Studio Live in 5 minutes? Yes, there will be. Although I'm putting it back a bit to Rasmus. So I'll see you guys in a bit. Take care, everyone, and cheers.
And you guys. See you later.